Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place where we take stacks of source material and turn them into actionable, insightful knowledge for you, the listener. Today, we are profiling a titan whose career trajectory is so wild, if it were a fictional screenplay, you'd probably reject it as utterly implausible.
It really is. It's a generational story of inheriting what seems like an immutable commodity empire, then executing a radical and, frankly, highly risky corporate transformation.
And then in the final act, committing that fortune to philanthropic efforts on a scale rarely seen anywhere else in the world.
Exactly.
We are diving deep into the life and work of Azim Premji, the renowned Indian businessman and founder-chairman of Wipro. Our mission for you today is to explore the strategic genius behind really two massive career shifts.
First, you have the pivot from being the son of the rice king of Burma to inheriting a commodity business. And then second, the transition of that very business from manufacturing, of all things, cooking oil and laundry soap, into a global software powerhouse.
And perhaps most importantly, we'll devote significant time to unpacking the sheer magnitude of his philanthropic legacy.
Absolutely. He has set a new standard for charitable giving outside the traditional Western model. I mean, we're talking about committing an immense personal fortune, mostly in company equity, to fundamentally change the infrastructure of public education across disadvantaged regions of India.
So we're really distilling the core insights from his life and work. We're providing the crucial context that explains why these shifts were so monumental and, I guess, how he managed to pull them off.
That's the mission.
And the ultimate deep dive aha moment here, I think, is that origin story. The company that eventually became Wipro, the $11 billion IT superpower, the engine that generated this massive fortune he's now distributing.
It started by making hydrogenated vegetable oil and a laundry soap.
It's just incredible. That is the journey we are here to understand.
It truly is. And we are talking about a man who remains a non-executive member and founder-chairman of Wipro, and whose current net worth was estimated by Forbes at $11.6 billion as recently as October 2023.
So to understand the man and the mission, we have to start at the beginning. We have to understand the ground he came from.
That's the only way.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible journey. Let's start with the origins of the man himself and the deeply rooted history of that family business.
Okay, so we begin in British India. Azim Premji was born on the 24th of July, 1945. In Bombay, which of course we now know is Mumbai, Maharashtra.
And his family background.
His family belonged to the Gujarati Ismaili Khoja Muslim community, and that lineage is deeply associated with commerce and trade, especially along the Indian Ocean routes. This commercial grounding is really vital context for everything that comes later.
And the roots of the family business were monumental. I mean, we're talking about a time when commodity trading really determined geopolitical influence, right? This operation was so vast, it actually earned his father, Muhammad Hashim Premji, a famous moniker.
That's right. His father was a deeply influential figure, known historically across Asia as the Rice King of Burma.
The Rice King of Burma. That's not a subtle title.
No, and this title isn't just an exaggeration. It really speaks to the comprehensive scope of the family's commodity trading operations. We're talking rice, cotton, oilseeds, spanning from the newly established Bombay port across to Burma, which is now Myanmar, and well beyond.
So not a modest operation.
Far from it. This was a complex logistical empire built on arbitrage and large-scale agricultural trade. It established the Premji name as one that was pretty much synonymous with industrial power in India at the time.
That scale is so important because it shows the kind of legacy and structure young Azim was born into. But there's an even more compelling early detail that speaks volumes about the family's dedication to India's future, made right in the middle of the chaos of partition in 1947.
This is a crucial historical marker. It's a real fork-in-the-road moment. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, personally invited Premji's father to move to the newly formed nation.
Wow.
Yeah, the idea was to secure his industrial might for Pakistan's economic future. But in a pivotal political choice, his father turned down the request. He very firmly chose to remain in India.
Turning down an invitation from the founding father of a new nation at a time of such profound geopolitical upheaval, I mean, that signifies an unshakable allegiance.
Exactly. It shows a deep, long-term faith in the Indian state and its trajectory. This commitment to the nation, established by the father, provides essential context for the son's later decision to focus his massive philanthropic efforts entirely on improving Indian public infrastructure.
Specifically education.
Specifically education. It's a generational dedication to building the future of the country they chose to belong to.
A choice that really anchors the family firmly in India's future. Now, let's look at the son's initial trajectory. Because young Azim Premji started down a very different path from rice, cotton, and commodity trading.
He really did. Unlike the family tradition of commodity trade, Premji went to Stanford University in the United States. He was pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, a BSE.
An engineering degree.
And this initial specialized technical grounding is critically important. He wasn't trained to be a commodity broker or a traditional industrial manager. His training was in complex systems and technical sciences.
Which, you have to think, gave him a completely different mindset.
It absolutely did. This foundational engineering mindset allowed him to see opportunities and execute strategic pivots that would have been, well, invisible or maybe even possible to a traditional business inheritor.
But that path, the formal engineering education in California, it was suddenly and dramatically cut short by tragedy.
Precisely. Which brings us to the company he was suddenly called to lead. The company, which would later become Wipro, was founded in 1945 by his father, and it was originally named Western Indian Vegetable Products Ltd., based in Amalner, Maharashtra.
The name itself gives us the product line, a manufacturer of industrial goods, specifically fats and oils. How did this operation contrast with the global software giant it would become?
It was a world apart, operating in an entirely different industrial complex. Their core business was manufacturing cooking oil, specifically hydrogenated fats. It was marketed under the brand name Sunflower Vanaspati.
And for our international audience, what exactly is Vanaspati?
It's a type of hydrogenated vegetable oil, often used as a substitute for ghee in cooking. It requires some pretty heavy industrial processing, and crucially, they also manufactured a byproduct from this process.
Right, the laundry soap.
The laundry soap, called 787, which utilized the residuals of the oil manufacturing process. So they were a successful, capital-intensive, industrial-era commodity company.
Then, in 1966, the entire course of his life and the company's was altered.
Mohammad Hashim Premji died suddenly. Azim Premji was only 21 years old, and as we mentioned, he was completely immersed in his engineering studies at Stanford.
He had to drop everything.
Everything. He had to return home immediately and take charge of this sprawling operation. And this moment marked the abrupt end of his formal engineering education at the time. He actually went back and finished his degree decades later, and the start of his leadership role in an industry that was the polar opposite of the high-tech future he was being trained for.
That is an immense personal challenge. A 21-year-old, straight out of a modern American university setting, suddenly tasked with managing an established traditional industrial empire built on hydrogenated oils and soap in 1960s India. That's a weight of responsibility few people ever experience. What was his immediate focus?
It speaks volumes about his inherent leadership capacity and, I think more importantly, his willingness to engage directly with unfamiliar territory. Initially, the focus wasn't on revolution. It was on rationalizing and growing the existing business footprint.
Stability first.
Right. He couldn't just immediately pivot to high-tech, so the strategy was stability and measured diversification within that commodity space.
Okay, so let's look at that crucial intermediary step, because you don't go from sunflower vanaspati to software overnight. Let's move into part 2, the high-tech transformation. What were those early diversification steps? Because they show his expansive vision, even before the big software break.
They were expansive, but they were still tied to industrial or consumer products. After Premji took over in 1966, he branched out into bakery fats, which are just variations of his core oil products.
Makes sense.
Then he moved into various ethnic ingredient-based toiletries, different hair care soaps, baby toiletries, even lighting products and hydraulic cylinders for industrial machinery.
So a very broad portfolio.
Exactly. The key takeaway is that Wipro was growing rapidly, but by the 1970s, it was still fundamentally an industrial products manufacturer. It was using traditional manufacturing plants and supply chains. It was definitely not a high-tech company yet.
So the company is stable, diversified, successful in its legacy field. But success in the 70s doesn't guarantee survival in the 80s. And the history books tell us the external environment provided the crucial opportunity that Premji would seize to redefine his company entirely. We're talking about a massive geopolitical and economic event.
This is where the story gets really, really interesting. The pivotal moment was the aftermath of the expulsion of IBM from India in 1977.
IBM gets kicked out.
Right. And this event was driven largely by regulatory changes, specifically something called a Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, or FARA. This act mandated that foreign companies had to dilute their equity down to 40% if they wanted to operate in India.
A huge change, and IBM refused.
IBM refused to comply. They viewed these equity restrictions as completely unacceptable constraints on their global operational model, so they left.
And IBM's refusal to dilute their equity led to their complete withdrawal from the Indian market, which created an absolute void in high-technology manufacturing and maintenance. It sounds like a sudden, massive vacuum.
It was exactly that. It created a massive, immediate void, particularly for domestic businesses that needed computer hardware and support. This was Premji's moment. He didn't just see a gap to fill. He saw an opportunity to redefine Wipro's very identity.
He saw the future.
He realized that the future was in technology, and the government had just cleared the entire playing field for domestic players.
That pivot requires enormous foresight and courage. What specifically did Premji understand about the Indian market at that exact moment that allowed him to make that radical jump from soap to circuits?
Well, I think he understood three things. First, the regulatory environment was shifting to favor domestic production, which protected local enterprises from immediate global competition.
A protected market.
A protected market, yes. Second, he recognized that the foundational need for technology in Indian industry and government was only going to grow exponentially. And third, and this is the most crucial part, he had the capital base from the successful commodity business, the soaps and oils, to finance the massive research and development and the retraining required for the pivot.
So he used the old economy to fund the new one.
He took the capital generated by the industrial economy and injected it directly into the future knowledge economy.
And so the brand identity followed the strategic shift.
Exactly. He capitalized on this vacuum, changed the company name to the modernized Wipro, which is a contraction of Western Indian vegetable products, and formally launched the company into the high technology sector.
Now let's talk specifics. They didn't jump straight into global outsourcing, which is what Wipro is famous for today. What was their initial technical product, and how on earth did they acquire the capability? That seems like the most challenging part of the pivot.
It was incredibly challenging. Their initial product was manufacturing mini computers, but Wipro fundamentally was a company that understood hydrogenated oils. It did not understand integrated circuits. So to bridge this huge capability gap, Premji sought out crucial technological partnerships.
Right. He couldn't build it from scratch.
No way. He collaborated specifically with an American company named Sentinel Computer Corporation.
Let's expand on that partnership. I mean, how do you go from licensing technology to actually manufacturing complex hardware successfully? Was this a full transfer of technical knowledge?
It was a complex and iterative process built on a licensing arrangement. Wipro essentially acquired the necessary technology and know-how from Sentinel to manufacture and assemble the mini computers locally. This allowed them to bypass years and years of R&D.
But the real genius was in the adaptation, right?
That's it. They had to adapt the Sentinel technology to the uniquely challenging infrastructure of 1980s India. You're dealing with inconsistent power supply, humidity, a very limited domestic component supply chain. So they developed an internal engineering culture capable of localized manufacturing and maintenance, building market credibility rapidly as a reliable domestic alternative to the departed international giants.
The strategic genius is just undeniable. Premji used an external economic event, IBM's expulsion, and merged it with his own latent engineering knowledge and his company's existing capital, facilitating what you called a focused shift from SOAPs to software.
And that focused shift worked, because it started with a tangible physical product, the mini computer hardware. This gave Wipro immediate revenue streams in the tech sector and a platform to really understand the needs of their clients, which set the stage for the later, more lucrative shift into software services and IT outsourcing as global connectivity improved.
This adaptability is the hallmark of true visionary entrepreneurship.
It really is.
And the success of that pivot was so profound that it required restructuring the way the family managed the resulting wealth.
Yes, by 2006, Wipro's success had generated a level of financial might that required dedicated management beyond the traditional corporate structure. So Premji established his family office, named Premji Invest, or PI.
PI, okay.
And this signaled the transition of wealth management and strategic investment into its own dedicated large-scale structure. It was managing the scale of the fortune generated by the tech pivot, and importantly, it was differentiating the wealth from the operational company.
Wipro became a global player, and Azim Premji, by extension, became an international figure recognized not just for his wealth, but for his visionary leadership. So what does this all mean for his global stature and influence?
It means he's consistently cited alongside global figures not just in tech, but in world affairs and humanitarian efforts. The international recognition he received really underscores the impact of his success story.
Can you give us some of those high-profile details, the ones that speak to his influence outside of just pure business circles?
Certainly. In 2010, he was voted among the 20 most powerful men in the world by Asia Week. And that's a recognition of geopolitical, not just commercial, influence.
That's a big deal.
It is. Furthermore, Time magazine listed him among the 100 most influential people, reflecting his dual status as a business leader and later as a philanthropist. They honored him in both 2004 and again in 2011.
And the 2011 Time 100 entry is a fascinating detail. It speaks to the level of peer respect he garnered from the international tech community.
Absolutely. The entry was written by Bill Gates,
Bill Gates himself.
the co-founder of Microsoft. When someone who fundamentally changed the global tech landscape writes your tribute in a magazine like Time, it confirms that your impact is recognized as being on par with the greatest business and social architects of the age.
That's incredible.
He's also been recognized by Business Week as one of the greatest entrepreneurs and is regularly listed among the 500 most influential Muslims globally, which highlights his cross-cultural and religious influence.
And of course, the honors piled up in India and abroad, recognizing both the decades of business success and the scale of his later profound philanthropic efforts.
The recognition from the Indian government reflects the national importance of Wipro and his contributions to the Indian economy. He received India's third highest civilian award, the Padma Bhushan, for his work in trade and commerce in 2005.
And then an even higher one.
Just 6 years later, in 2011, he was elevated to India's second highest civilian award, the Padma Vibhushan. These awards represent the deepest gratitude of the nation for his industrial and economic impact.
And the diplomatic recognition extended far beyond India's borders as well.
Indeed. In 2018, the French government conferred upon him the highest French civilian distinction, the Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur, the Knight of the Legion of Honor.
The Legion of Honor.
Yes. This is reserved for individuals who have made exemplary contributions to France or, globally. This kind of honor is a testament to the international diplomatic acknowledgement of Wipro's global footprint and Premji's personal stature.
And it's clear that the academic world also weighed in, recognizing this dual trajectory. The builder of the empire and the giver of the fortune. It seems like they recognized his business acumen separately from his commitment to philanthropy.
That separation and recognition is extremely telling. It's about his two distinct legacies. He received an honorary doctorate from Manipal Academy of Higher Education in 2000 for his business achievements. Then later, Wesleyan University in Connecticut specifically awarded him an honorary doctorate in 2009 for his philanthropic work.
For the philanthropy specifically.
Yes. And then Mysore University conferred an honorary doctorate on him in 2015. This demonstrates a clear line of recognition, first for building one of the world's most impressive IT companies, and second for making the conscious choice to systematically distribute that wealth for public benefit.
That systematic distribution is where we need to turn now. It is arguably his most defining and enduring legacy. Let's shift our focus to part 3, the zenith of philanthropy. This isn't just about writing checks. This is about structural, generational commitment.
That's the crucial distinction. Unlike many billionaires who approach philanthropy later in life or primarily through immediate donations, Premji formalized his commitment to systemic change relatively early in the 21st century. He recognized that truly fixing problems takes time and scale.
He founded the Azim Premji Foundation in 2001. When you have a philanthropic vehicle funded by a multi-billion-dollar fortune, you have to be highly selective about your focus. What is the foundation's precise mission and, well, why education?
The foundation is a nonprofit organization focused specifically and almost exclusively on improving the public school system in disadvantaged regions of India. This focus on systemic foundational change is the main thrust.
And why education?
Premji fundamentally believes that poverty is often a consequence of poor access to quality education. So, fixing the basic educational foundation, the quality of teachers, the school environment, the curriculum, is the highest leverage way to enable millions of underprivileged Indians to participate fully in the modern economy. It's about creating a sustainable pipeline out of generational poverty.
So it's a long-term strategy for systemic overhaul, not just providing immediate relief. And his involvement isn't passive, right? He's actively involved in the institutions he funds.
His active involvement is critical to the foundation's credibility and its ability to attract high-quality talent. He serves as the chancellor of the Azim Premji University in Bangalore.
The chancellor.
And this university is not just a high-prestige institution. It is the operational arm for his mission. It serves as a training ground for teachers, educational researchers, and professionals who will staff, study, and ultimately improve the very public education systems the foundation targets. This shows a commitment to sustainability funding, not just the infrastructure, but the intellectual capital required to run it effectively.
The ultimate public declaration of his intent came in 2013 when he became the first Indian to sign the Giving Pledge.
Right. The Giving Pledge, as many listeners will know, is the campaign initiated by Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, urging the world's wealthiest individuals to commit to giving away the majority of their net worth to philanthropic causes, either during their lifetime or in their will.
And contextually, that placed him immediately an extremely elite international company.
It really did. When he signed, Premji was only the third non-American, following Richard Branson and David Sainsbury, to join this highly visible global movement. This instantly placed him on the global map of elite, impactful philanthropists. It was a signal that his efforts were going to be on the same scale as the largest American charitable foundations.
He captured his commitment rationale with a quote that speaks directly to a sense of moral obligation tied to extreme success.
That quote is so profound in its simplicity and clarity. He said, "I strongly believe that those of us who are privileged to have wealth should contribute significantly to try and create a better world for the millions who are far less privileged."
It's not framed as mere generosity, it's framed as an ethical responsibility.
Exactly. An ethical responsibility that comes with immense privilege.
Now, we need to spend some real time on the numbers because the staggering scale of his commitment is defined by how he executed this pledge. It wasn't through cash transfers, but through an escalating, systematic transfer of corporate ownership.
That's the most powerful and, I think, unusual aspect of his philanthropy. The scale is monumental because he committed not just the equivalent of his net worth in cash, but the very equity of Wipro itself. By transferring shares into the foundation trust, he ensured that the giving would continue to grow and generate income alongside the company's success, making the foundation sustainable in the long term.
Let's track the evolution of these commitments. The initial pledge was to give away at least half of his wealth, which started with a $2.2 billion donation in 2013. But the transfers actually started earlier.
They did. Back in December 2010, even before he formally joined the pledge, he initially committed $2 billion by transferring 8.7% of his stake in Wipro, that's 213 million equity shares, to the foundation trust.
An incredible start.
Then, in February 2013, he transferred an additional 12% stake. This is Premji systematically handing over ownership of the company he built.
So he's just continuously adding these major chunks of the company to the foundation's ownership.
Precisely. In July 2015, he gave away yet another 18% stake. So if you combine these three major transfers, the 8.7%, the 12%, and the 18%, it brought his total corporate contribution at that time up to an already staggering 39% of his Wipro ownership.
39%. That is an enormous amount of personal wealth and control to cede to a public trust.
It's huge. But the real record setter, the one that cemented his place among the world's most generous philanthropists, came a few years later.
This was the big one.
Yes, the capstone commitment was made in March 2019 when Premji pledged an additional 34% of his remaining Wipro stock to the foundation.
So you combine all those transfers, the 8.7%, the 12%, the 18%, and now this massive 34%, what is the crucial resulting figure for the total endowment that the Azim Premji Foundation now stewards?
This final large transfer dramatically increased the total endowment from Premji to the foundation to a massive consolidated value of US $21 billion.
$21 billion.
This figure, noted by Forbes in 2019, instantly made him the undisputed top Indian philanthropist by an immense margin, and placed him right among the world's most generous philanthropists outside the United States. This kind of systematic, equity-based giving, totaling over 60% of his holding, is truly world-leading.
To help our international audience grasp the scale, we need to contextualize the massive figures in Indian currency that we see in the source material, like the daily donation figures. This amount, $21 billion, is transformational. I mean, it's not a sum that supports, it's a sum that fundamentally restructures, enabling deep, sustainable, systemic change in public education, which is exactly the foundation's goal.
Absolutely. And the commitment is ongoing, which is why he constantly tops philanthropy lists. The source material highlights this ongoing effort, noting that he topped the Elgif India philanthropy list multiple times, including 2020 and 2021. For instance, in 2021, the analysis calculated that he was donating 27 crore per day.
That number 27 crore per day sounds enormous. Can we put that into immediate context for the international listener?
We absolutely should. 1 crore is 10 million Indian rupees. So 27 crore is 270 million rupees. Depending on the exchange rate at the time, that equates to roughly 3.5 to 4 million US dollars being donated every single day in 2021 alone.
Every day.
Every single day. This isn't just a passive endowment. It is an active, massive engine of social good, spending millions daily to affect change.
That is a staggering detail that truly brings home the operational force of the foundation. It's not just a reserve of funds, it's a constant expenditure of capital directed at social impact.
And this rapid mobilization capability proved essential during national crises, most notably the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The foundation stepped up immediately and with serious multi-level resources, showing that its systemic approach can also be nimble when required.
Let's discuss the specific commitments the Azim Premji Foundation and Wipro made during the crisis response. It shows how the corporate and philanthropic vehicles collaborated.
Right. In April 2020, at the start of the initial wave, the Azim Premji Foundation, Wipro, and Wipro Enterprises jointly committed a massive sum of 1,125 crore. Using the general exchange rate at the time, this was equivalent to about US $140 million, specifically dedicated to immediate COVID-19 relief efforts across the country.
$140 million.
And this money was directed toward frontline response, medical supplies, and aid distribution.
And their commitment didn't end with the initial relief efforts. They followed up as the pandemic evolved into a massive vaccination effort.
They did. In June 2021, they made an additional substantial commitment of 1,000 crore. That's over $120 million USD, focused specifically on supporting the universal vaccination program across the country. This consistent, large-scale investment directed toward public health and systemic improvement shows that while their primary focus is education, the underlying philosophy is national infrastructural support.
The consistent recognition, topping those philanthropy lists year after year, seems simply a byproduct of his sustained scale and sincerity.
The recognition is consistent because the investment is relentless. As we noted, he was recognized for donating the equivalent of 3.5 to 4 million US dollars per day in 2021 alone. This high volume of sustained, targeted giving validates his status as a leader in global philanthropy.
He built a tech empire out of a soap company and then transformed the majority of that empire into an unprecedented philanthropic engine for public good, focusing rigorously on one of the most fundamental needs: education.
It's an incredible story.
We've covered the three massive pivot narratives of his life: the unexpected start as the inheritor of a vegetable oil and soap company, the savvy and crucial pivot enabled by the geopolitical vacuum left by IBM's expulsion, and the unmatched, staggering scale of his commitment to equity-based philanthropy. It's truly a story of constant, radical, and successful evolution.
It is a profound legacy, defined equally by vision and adaptability. And while Azim Premji retired from his day-to-day operational role in 2019, stepping into the role of founder-chairman and a non-executive member of the board, the company's transition is also a story of successful successional planning. It ensures the corporate entity he transformed remains strong.
That's an important final detail for the business aspect of his life, the continuity of Wipro as a functioning global entity.
Yes. His son, Rashad Premji, currently serves as the chairman of Wipro, ensuring the continuity of the business leadership. And this allows Azim Premji to focus his energy entirely on the stewardship of the foundation and its monumental $21 billion mission.
A mission which has essentially become his life's singular focus.
That's right.
So what does this all mean for us, the learner? We have discussed Premji's foundational belief that those who are privileged to have wealth should contribute significantly to create a better world for the millions who are less privileged. His $21 billion endowment is focused almost entirely on systemic improvements in public education in disadvantaged regions of India.
It raises a crucial question about the optimal use of exponential capital for social good. Premji applied the scale and systemic thinking of a tech billionaire to one singular social problem: education. He believes that education is the fundamental lever for mass upward mobility.
So if we consider the implications of this scale and focus this methodology of systemic overhaul, what is the right singular area of social impact?
It really encourages you to think beyond just scattered charity and look towards systemic overhaul. Was Premji right that education is the ultimate lever, providing the highest return on investment for the future?
Or, given the urgency of global challenges today, would focusing that kind of resource, $21 billion, on an immediate systemic problem, say clean water access, basic maternal health care infrastructure, or sustainable energy adoption in developing nations, create an even faster, more fundamental change for the most disadvantaged populations worldwide?
It's the challenge Premji has laid down, not just to other global billionaires, but to all of us. How can we move from relief efforts to systemic solutions? And where should we place our biggest bets for the future? He has given us a clear model for applying corporate scale to social necessity.
A profound thought to end on. We hope this deep dive into the life of Azim Premji, from the Rice King's son to the soap magnate, to the software titan, and finally the philanthropic giant, has provided you with the necessary context and insight to appreciate the sheer magnitude and strategic brilliance of his contributions.
Thank you for joining us for this in-depth exploration of the source material.
We'll be back soon with another stack of sources and another deep dive tailored just for you. Until then, keep digging.